XTC, Apple Venus, right now on States and Kingdoms.
We recently did a review of Wasp Star, and when we were preparing to do that, I listened to Wasp Star over and over again, but I also listened to this, and I kind of felt like maybe that was a mistake.
Yeah, you messed up.
Because it was very difficult for me to separate these two albums, and of course that makes sense. They're released so close together. They're Volume 1, Volume 2. But Wasp Star is a decent album. It's a good album. This is a masterful album. And when I listened to this next to that, I was really conflicted on that video. I don't know if anyone noticed or if you noticed.
Yeah, you were struggling. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to not compare the two.
Why am I not struggling?
They're obviously linked, but that's one of the things that I think is so interesting. I think what we were kind of wrestling with in that video is trying to understand how they can do an album like this, which is like amazing, one of their greatest albums, I think, and then just right after it, put out Wasp Star, which is, like you said, it is a fine album with some really great songs, but this is just so... Oh, I said that.
I don't recall thinking that.
This is just so good. Now, when I first listened to this, early on in listening to XTC, when I first got into the band, I was late to the party, obviously. And this was just very recently released when I first started listening to XTC, and so I listened to a whole bunch of things, out of order, and this was one of them. Right next to Skylarking, I was listening to this, and I thought this was amazing, and I still do. This is one of my favorite albums. I keep going like this, throw it at you.
I don't know why.
I don't know. It's beautiful and different. It's really different from a lot of other XTC albums.
Well, that's fascinating.
I opened up too much. Did you say I overshared?
I really wanted to say that with a straight
overshared.
Face. It's just kind of fascinating, XTC's direction after Nonsuch. We haven't talked about Nonsuch yet, and the 90s were, they're, kind of lost, of course, and this album coming out when it did, I always felt way back, going way back. Way back.
You always felt this way.
Always felt. I was born feeling this way. That, this album would have been more successful and even more highly regarded if it had been released earlier. A lot of these songs were written, before 1999. And it robbed XTC of that decade.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, their beef with Virgin. So it's interesting. It's not really what we're talking about today.
No, but it is fascinating.
But it is kind of connected to this album, because this album should have been a bigger success. It should have been seen as the sort of natural progression of XTC's brilliance. After Nonsuch. Yeah. Because one thing it is, and I do appreciate them not making this a double album, is it is very focused. This album. It's very pared down and focused. It's not terribly long. It doesn't take you a long time to get into it. The songs are immediately striking, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
And
they grab you, and you're hooked from the start.
And I would also say, really is that XTC being kind of, one of the heirs of the great rock geniuses, the 60s, 50s, 60s. And there are a few bands that I think of that way, like the real heirs of rock and roll, XTC kind of were one of those bands to me. Mm-hmm. And this album is sort of them really
just like
taking that. Yeah, and it just came too late.
Yeah.
Because there was no other band at this time. And there were some really good bands around this time. English bands, American bands, whatever, whatever. Mm-hmm. But there was no album that came out that is just so like a perfect blend of all of that rock and roll in one album.
Well, XTC's always felt like a band out of out of step with time.
Well, that's, I mean, it's probably true, yeah.
You know? But no, I completely agree. This album is gorgeous in every way. I mean, we'll talk about the songs, but like the orchestral arrangements, and it's just everything is grand where it needs to be. It's grand and sweeping and lovely, and then there's also small moments, and it's just I just think it's perfect. I love this album.
Yeah. And of course, I mean, as with Wasp Star, Dave is really not on it.
Right.
But and it's hard to say what impact that has on anything.
Yeah. Well,
with any band, it's difficult.
It seems like they worked around it. On Wasp Star, there's obviously something missing.
It does seem like it's missing more on Wasp Star, yeah.
River of Orchids. I think this is just a wonderful way to open the album. It's simple and beautiful. It feels economical. The sounds he uses, and
I like songs where things come together, and at the beginning of the song.
Yeah, it feels like in Terminator 2, how T2 pulls back together.
It's exactly right. It's exactly right.
That's what I think of with this song.
That's exactly what it is. Obviously this album has a strong pagan theme, and it sticks to it well, and it does have an impact on the emotions that the album puts across, as a whole. So it starts, with this. There is like a pastoral, very outdoorsy kind of pagan feel, which at least in this case is intentional.
Yeah, it's running through a meadow. Listening to this song,
it grabs you immediately. How interesting. How you really, and it's just absolutely a brilliant song.
It's beautiful. The vocals by the end, because it just keeps building and building, and then the vocals are kind of swirling, and they're all layered, and they're doing like a chant, like a row your boat round kind of thing.
It's exactly right. Again, perfect. It's just like
I have all the insights.
The T-1000 and row your boat.
Yeah,
it's exactly what it is.
I like that. Is a really nice, catchy song.
No, really, but it really is. It's such a this is this song in particular on this album is where I really feel like Andy made his peace with Paul McCartney. Because he really has a kind of McCartney-ish
like quality
tone to his voice, and I feel like the Beatles were a bigger thing for him to just kind of not make peace with. I don't know how else to put it, but to reckon with.
Yeah, allow to be an influence.
Yes.
As opposed to kind of
to not
working against it.
Like he was afraid they'd take over before.
Yeah.
And so you get that very Paul McCartney. I don't know if I'd say. I mean, it's Beatles, but it's particularly Paul McCartney to me.
Right. Like, that's the thing that's so interesting. Like, this song feels easy and simple and just like, it's like a pleasant tune, and you would say, oh, it's kind of poppy. But there's something going on in this song that is missing in most of the songs on Wasp Star. Just got some extra oomph, and it's great song.
Really high, like a really high thing.
Yeah, and all the lyrics on this album I think are really wonderful. Easter Theater, I think, is one of the best songs on the record.
Yeah, it's a remarkable song. It's one of the best XTC songs.
It's wonderful. It's like all of the instrumentation, all of the flourishes and the orchestra and everything that comes together, and it's all pieced together so well.
Yeah.
Most of these songs, like little mini things. Do you know?
No, I have no idea what you're talking about. It's a beautiful song. It really is. It's so catchy. And I mean, catchy is almost the wrong word. It really goes, it just sounds gross, but it goes right into you.
Yeah, no, the melody is just, it's almost like he tapped into some kind of primordial melody ooze. And
it sounds grosser.
Took from that, and then the T-1000 came. I think the song sequence on this album is really, really good too.
Yeah, I think so too.
Because like a song like Easter Theater, it's so powerful and and beautiful, and it comes just after like kind of a more simple song, and then Nights in Shine and Karma is a kind of a quiet.
Yeah.
It feels quiet and meditative, and there's something about it that's
both,
a little.
Yeah,
Drony.
Easter Theater is very dramatic. So is River of Orchids, and Nights in Shining Karma is definitely an easier, more sort of simple, pleasing song, I suppose you could say.
It's just a little bit more subdued and peaceful, and it's like mellow. You kind of just like let it kind of sweep over you. That's how I do. That's how I do it. Frivolous Tonight is Colin's first song of 2 on the record.
And I know you're going to bring up Wasp Star again, so I'll just say...
I wasn't going to.
We did say that on that album is one of the few XTC albums that we don't love all of Colin's songs.
Yeah. Well, they seem very not as strong as Andy's.
And it's hard to say, what's going on there. But his 2 songs on this that we both really love. They're both great. And you were saying before, I'm not sure, like, you're not sure why.
I'm not.
Why are they different? Like, what is, and that is a kind of a tantalizing question since these albums are so close together, why they're so different. But yeah, this song has what would you say, a showiness, a show-tuniness?
Yes. Yeah, Frivolous Tonight I don't know, it's a good song. It's a good song.
Yeah, it really is. It is.
It's got, there's just something.
And even on Wasp Star, his songs are still good. That's a difficult album. We'll have to talk about that again. I don't know what it is
really
with that album. Because we're singing it, like, I find that I'm humming songs from that album, and it's like,
I didn't even know I liked this song.
I don't really like this album that much, but I'm singing the songs anyway.
Yeah, it's true. So then you go into Green Man, which is another kind of dramatic song.
Lawrence of Arabia.
Yeah, it really does have that soundtrack feel, the strings and everything.
Very dramatic.
It is. Your dictionary.
Yeah.
This is a bit of fun.
What's interesting, this song, is definitely a little bit of an outlier on at least among Andy's songs.
Yeah.
I find it fits really well.
It does somehow.
I don't know, something of the attitude in it, which is, is a little bit nonplussed. It works well on the album, and the production and everything matches everything else. It sounds great. I like the song.
Me too.
Because we said before, it is one of the only songs maybe on this that you could have had on Wasp Star, like wouldn't have been out of place. But it fits really well here.
It does. Somehow it fits, and I like Andy when he's a little more aggressive or a little angry. He's definitely a little angry. But it still has a great melody.
He's been hurt.
He's been hurt. He's been
hurt.
And I understand that. No, it is. And it's kind of fun. It's funny.
No, it's a good song. It's clever.
It's got a lot going for it, but it reads as very simple.
Does it?
When you first hear it, it reads that way. Yeah. Fruit Nut, Colin's second song, which is also fun.
Also,
catchy,
Kinksy to me. If not, it's got like a. It doesn't sound like Autumn Almanac, but I feel like it is.
Yeah.
It's got again pastoral, more just gardeny, but that's because of the lyrics.
Yeah, he's talking about fruit.
But it does. It sticks with the theme of. It sticks with the album's theme of being, about harvest and gardens and outside.
A man must have a shed to keep him sane.
Seasons and very pagan.
Also, right after Your Dictionary, it feels like it matches, because it's like it feels like a story about like an older married couple. Mm-hmm. But they're not very happy. I Can't Own Her. So this is probably my favorite song.
Really?
Yeah. Between this and Harvest Festival and Easter Theater, I Can't Own Her, I think is just absolutely sublime. I think it's gorgeous.
It's a great song. And I like, I think it's an interesting song because I feel like a lot of more modern songwriters would really put forward the idea that, you know, you can't own her, like, because, you know, you shouldn't.
Yeah. Or you don't deserve her.
No, but, like, how dare you? You can't own someone. What do you...
Yeah.
What is this? The Dark Ages?
Was this the 50s?
Yeah, is it the 50s?
Is this like the 50s?
The Dark 50s? But, you know, there's none of that in this song, which I really like. It's a more direct, emotional song.
No, he conveys something very clearly, in a very, very simple way. And I just love the sound of this song. And it really does build very subtly, and you don't even notice it. But then, you know, there's like a crescendo, and it's like this swirling, beautiful, beautiful sound. I just love this song. And then it goes right into Harvest Festival, which is also, I think, lovely, and feels like kind of the climax of the whole thing. You know, it's kind of like everything was building toward this.
Would you say like, Beach Boys-y?
I would say Beach Boys-y.
You know, because I mean, you know, by this time, and I don't mean that because I don't really like, we don't do that really. It's like, oh, it's Beatlesque, it's this. But with Andy, it's interesting because all those things were flowing through him. Yeah. Always, whether he, you know, sometimes he would let them out. You know, I feel like he had less of an issue with the Beach Boys influences than the Beatles influences.
This song never struck me as Beatley.
No, but on this album, there's like it just all kind of, you know, he's got the Beatles stuff, he's got his own whatever it is, and the Beach Boys, and all kind of just comes together in his songs and Colin's songs.
Yeah, so I mean, and there's something about the last two songs on here. We got Harvest Festival going into Last Balloon. Very much reminds me, and I don't know why, of the way on Oranges and Lemons, Miniature Sun goes into Chalk Hills and Children. The last two songs mirror each other somehow for me. I get a very similar feeling about like the placement of how the last two songs go. Well, I don't know.
I think the same guy wrote those songs.
Oh, The Last Balloon is again like a little bit more subdued, kind of takes it down a notch in a good way. It's a nice kind of send off. I mean, it literally feels like a send off, like the balloons are flying away.
You know what's interesting though? I mean, so we were saying before that maybe Wasp Star should have been an EP, but you know, honestly, XTC's 90s and 2000s are so unfortunate.
It's really a mystery.
That, you know, so after, you know,
it's really a mystery. It's hard to pinpoint and say, oh, they could have done this or that. I mean,
I'm all right with Wasp Star being, you know, their final album. That's the way it is. But I will basically think of this as their final real musical statement.
I mean, this. I think it's a masterpiece. I love this album. It's we've been friends for a long time now, and I cherish this album. I really do.
There's nothing quite like it in this time. You know, there were some people that were kind of mining the same musical influences, even someone like Beck. Although in '99 he put out Midnight Vultures, which has nothing to do with like
right. If you put this up against like Sea Change, I don't know.
There are some things. What I'm saying, like there were some people that were doing sort of similar things, but this is special. This is unique. This stands out.
But you know, like how dumb I am. And I don't know how to explain this, but I was talking to you earlier about this because I know you and I talked to you. You know, listening to this album next to Go To or Skylarking and not noticing, you know, like I didn't think like, oh, this is so weird. It's like all strings and like that's weird. Like I didn't think anything of it. I just thought it's another XTC album and I love it. And I don't know if that's just because like I'm dumb and I accept everything, or there's just something about the music that translates through all the different styles.
No.
And
your stupidity has nothing to do with that.
That's other stuff. Thank you so much for watching our brief discussion of XTC's Apple Venus. Please let us know in the comments below what you think of this album. Make sure to like and subscribe and stay tuned here at States and Kingdoms for more videos coming out every Wednesday and Friday. We'll see you next time.